Hi there, my name is Maud Garrett. I am an on-camera host for a living where I interview some of the biggest stars in the world, but I'm also a huge nerd. I run a company called Geek Bomb, create a bunch of geeky content, so I know a few things. So if you've got any questions, I'm ready to hear them. Hi there, my name's Maud Garrett. I'm an on-camera host and I interview some of the biggest names in the world, but there's another side to me as well. I'm a huge nerd. I play a lot of video games. I run a company called Geek Bomb where I do a bunch of geeky, nerdy, wonderful content. So I know a little thing about the entertainment industry. If you've got any questions, I'm your gal. Hi there, my name's Maud Garrett. I'm an on-camera host where I interview some of the biggest stars in the world, and I also run a company called Geek Bomb where I make a lot of nerdy content. If you've got questions, hit me up. Hi there, my name's Maud Garrett. I'm an on-camera host and I'm a professional nerd. If you've got any questions, you can ask me anything. Hi, my name is Maud Garrett, but now that I'm in America, it's Maud Garrett. Maud Garrett. My name's Maud Garrett. I'm actually from Australia. I grew up in Brisbane. I spent a lot of time in Sydney. I lived in Bondi Beach where all those beautiful beaches are. But now I live in LA. I miss Australia. The food's better. But the people are cunts. I live in LA, the entertainment capital of the world. I've been here for about 6.5 years now. I moved to LA from Sydney because I was. That's a weird one. I actually got my visa because I wanted to move to America because I knew there were more opportunities for work. I told a few places that I was working for in Australia that I was getting my visa. Lo and behold, one of the companies actually offered me a job to host a radio show live from LA that was syndicated around Australia. Dream job. I did it for 2 years, but I stayed here. How dare you? Next question. I do have a pet. Zelda! Zelda! I have a pet dog. Her name is Zelda because I rescued a princess.
How are you doing today?
Today's shit. But I think you're allowed to have bad days. Just things that are going wrong when they should be going right. You know, sometimes it doesn't matter what's happening. You're just like, today's a rotten one. That was what today was like. But yesterday was great. And tomorrow's probably going to be great too. So I'm just in a shit sandwich.
Tell me about your family.
My family, I think it's almost rare these days. My parents are still together. My brothers are great. We have an amazing family. If anything, we just don't need to check on. If anything, we don't need to check in on each other often. We're just kind of fully functioning adults. It's great. By the way, I have a tattoo, PB. It's for Papa Bear because my dad's the best person in the world. And then my mum was like, but show me that tattoo. Oh, I hate it. And I was like, no wonder you hate it. It's not about you. And she said, PB, parental bitch. Yeah, it is. And I was like, oh, you're pretty sweet too then.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have two older brothers, Jack and Darcy, or Darcy if you're in America. They're older. We're all 18 months apart, which is kind of great. I guess my parents just decided to get it happening and just shut us all out. But yeah, they're very different to me. Very different. They would never do this. You couldn't pay them. I've tried. Yes. Yeah, I'm single. By choice, because having standards, that's very important for people. Having those good high standards. So that's why I'm single. And I'm moored and I'm under 35. So like I'm the only moored I think that is under 35. So I think it's a lot for people to handle. Actually, shout out to Maud Apatow, Judd Apatow's daughter. And she's not single. So it's definitely just me.
What's your favorite color?
You'd think it would be pink, but my favorite color is actually purple. I don't know why, it just is. I love it. This is such a first date question, by the way, because I've asked it.
Almost do the personal stuff. What's the weather today?
I'm not Siri, fucking look it up. The weather today is really nice.
Can you tell me a joke?
This is Alexa, isn't it? Okay, I have a two-parter that I'm a big fan of. The first one is, why did the mushroom go to the party? Because he's a fun guy. Well, why did he leave the party? Because there was no mushroom. I love those jokes a lot. You're welcome. Oh, I'm not telling you that one. No. I actually don't know. I'm going to pop a TBD on that one. To be determined. I'll get back to you on that one, maybe. Maybe not.
And let's say somebody says, you know what, fuck you, Maud.
It's because I had a good childhood, isn't it? That's fair. That's fair. Actually, no, it's not fair. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. Being a dick is a choice.
What do you do for work?
I do a bunch of things for work. I guess first and foremost, I'm an on-camera talent, so I host things for a living, which is hilarious because a lot of people can't understand me with my accent. I cover things in the geek categories, so a lot of stuff on video games, movies, television shows. They're sort of my specialties. But I also do a thing called junkets where I get to interview celebrities and talk about the latest movies that are coming out. And that is really cool, not gonna lie. It's probably my favorite thing that I do. And I run a company and I have a clothing line, but there's just not enough time to talk about it all, I guess.
How do you become a host?
Becoming a host sounds like it would be super easy, but it's not. It's one of those things that you really do have to have the skill set, the knowledge base, the determination, and the timing and luck. And it's like, they're your 5 rings, or, you know, for the Green Lanterns, or all the weathers for Captain Planet. And you need to have them all combined to create that experience. So I guess the thing to become a host is that you have to keep trying so that you can find more of those chances where that a simile happens and you become Captain Planet, aka a host. Also, just practice. It's not an easy thing to do. And if you look at a host and you're like, I can do that, that's because they're a really, really good host and they make it look easy. So a tip that I would give for now is to specialize in something. Back in Australia, that was the advice that I wasn't given at all. I was given the opposite, which was to not talk about the things that I loved because it would typecast me and there's just not enough jobs out there, which can be the case for a lot of people. So you have to know a little bit about a lot, but it helps if you also know a lot about a little. So finding your niche, for me, it was the geek world, which now is no longer a niche. It's too big as well, and I don't know everything in that. But if you have the thing that you love and you explore it and it becomes your brand, but it's true, then that'll help as well.
How long have you been doing this for?
My first hosting job that I ever got, I guess, was in 2005. It was a competition to become a host for a music channel in Australia. I actually didn't win. That sucked, but this life. And instead of wanting to go back home and to continue the old life that I had, I got a taste of the new life and I wanted it, and so I just put myself out there and ended up landing a job on Nickelodeon Australia, which I hosted for 3.5 years. From there, that led on to hosting radio, morning television in Australia, and it just kept going and going and going, and I'm still here, 14 years later. Wow. Fuck. That's why you don't ask me how old I am.
And let's get a short answer for this one. How long have you been hosting for?
I have been hosting as a profession, so not doing anything else but a host, since 2007. But I started in 2005, technically, my very first hosting thing, which it was a competition, I didn't even win. That wasn't a short answer. I talk for a living.
Try one more time.
The time, I have been a host since 2007, and that means full-time as a profession. That's the only thing I've been doing. 12 years.
How much do you get paid to host?
How much do you weigh? There's just things that you don't ask. I did look up on LinkedIn though, and it did say that the average salary for a host was $90,000 a year. That's not true. Oh wait, it's an average. It could be. There's some people that are making mint, and there's other people that, trust me, they get taken advantage of and they're offered very little. Expect both.
So, what are you most excited to be working on at the moment?
The most exciting thing I'm working on at the moment is that thing called freelance life, where you're waiting or searching or trying to get that next big job. That's why I like to do Geek Bomb, which is my side thing, I guess you can say. It's a hobby that's kind of flourished. It's a network where I have social media and YouTube where I get to just let my geek flag fly. And I have a team of 7 people that I work with, and it's Patreon funded as well. So I kind of love that because every day it means I get to do something and I'm working towards something instead of waiting for an email or a phone call.
What would you say was your favorite hosting gig?
I have peaked a number of times in my life already. Back in 2007 to 2009, hosting Nickelodeon Australia, I learnt so much from it. I learnt how to host, how to do voiceovers, a bunch of different things from there. That was a highlight. And then moving to LA for this radio job, that was insane because that's when I started interviewing some really big celebrities, attending red carpets, experiencing that Hollywood life, and getting paid to travel. So that's yeah, that was then. I've already done it. I've peaked. I haven't done comedy. I guess I'm just a fucking legend. All the time, instead of having to do I can't even finish that sentence. I'm actually quite intimidated by comedy. I feel like they're really, really fast people, and I don't put myself on the same level as those people. I guess I use my sense of humor and my wit to amplify my hosting. But I probably should have done improv, but it's just another thing to do, you know. But you should do improv, Auntie Maud says. Ooh, voiceovers. The number one job I get hired to do is AI characters. So the American Siri, I can do those sorts of voice but I can't do my R's. Sorts of voices. They're just different words from my mouth. And I can also do the British version. So yeah, it's just like, I guess, computers, fembots, that kind of stuff. But I recently got a job playing the mother, Janet, in an online series called Under the Influencer. And she is an American mother, and she's very pedantic, and she loves her children more, there it is again with the R, more than anything. I'm so close. It's just the R's. Like, saying Star Wars in an American accent is so hard. Star Wars. I get paid to do it, believe it or not. Wow, I've interviewed some big A-listers. Tom Cruise, Charlize Theron. I just did Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, Quentin Tarantino, and Margot Robbie at once at the same time for 7 glorious minutes. That was my 7 minutes of heaven. They're probably like the biggest ones. Angelina Jolie. She was probably one that I got a little bit like nervous interviewing, and I don't usually get that. But Morgan Freeman, you know, like for all sliding scales of it. Millie Bobby Brown, she started following me after the first interview I did with her. That was kind of cool. Samuel L. Jackson, somehow he follows me. This isn't me tooting my own horn. This is just one of the perks of the job, I guess. There is something about Tom Cruise. He's figured out media, right? So he walks into the room, he acknowledges every single person in the room, whether it's with a handshake, you know, visual nod, but it's just, he absolutely acknowledges everyone. And he makes you feel like a person. And then when I had my interview, and it was 10 minutes long, where in the junket world, you usually get 3 to 5 minutes, he had great deliveries with his answers. It's called a soundbite. So it's when it's a perfectly good, short, concise answer that you can put in the interview. He was just delivering so hard with all of that. He would say your name back at you in your answer, great question, Maud. And you're like, nah. So he's fantastic. My personal favorite, where I was the most starstruck and I couldn't hide it, Carrie Elwes. He's from The Princess Bride and a bunch of other movies, but The Princess Bride is my favorite movie of all time. And he was just delightful. And it was 1 hour, and I may have cried. I definitely fangirled. He took her like a champ. I didn't. With worst interviews, there are just some actors that don't like the marketing side of it all. They love acting, they hate promoting the movie. There are actors that have made friends of mine cry in interviews. My notorious bad interview that I had, which is now hilarious, and I will name and shame this man, Steve Buscemi. In 2014, I interviewed you for the Incredible Burt Wonderstone, 2013 actually, in Vegas. Every single person that walked out of the room was just like, I didn't know, I couldn't get through. And I was like, I've got this. Very, very detached answers. I was talking about his character and getting into the makeup and becoming the character, and he's like, the makeup took 2 hours. Cool. So I ended up just going on this tangent and this theory, which to date is probably the funniest thing I've ever said. And that was theorizing that when the magician shares these secrets, because your magician should never tell, he's sharing it at the bar with a pretty lady and then convinces her to come onto the show to help out for the next night. And when he's sawing her in half, he's really sawing her in half because he told the secret and he had to kill her. And he goes, I was like, great, that's my time, see you later. And I left. And then about 20 minutes later, when he walked past me because he was wrapped for the day, he stops and he looks at me and he's like, you're funny. And I was like, but you didn't laugh. That was the worst interview I ever had. Yay, Steve!
What about the craziest interview?
It's not often that you have a crazy interview. I tried to teach Avril Lavigne to burp and she wasn't having any of it. So the thing about interviewing is that you have to build instant rapport. You have to be best friends with this person in about 3 seconds. And within that first sort of 5 seconds, they'll figure out if they like you or not and how you're going to have this interview and this moment together. I have somehow tapped into having instant rapport with people, and trust me when I say being a tall blonde with blue eyes is actually a huge disadvantage a lot of the time. I have to say that I am actually good at my job, and that, the stereotype doesn't resonate with me at all. And so for me, I like to be a little bit cheeky, very inappropriate, and probably swear. And that actually usually helps a lot. It just puts people at ease. Or the flip side is it makes them very uncomfortable and they clam up. But either way, what a great interview, huh? So sync again. Well, in Florida, they have like all the NASA area, and I got to interview Ryan Gosling, and NASA was behind him in this giant building. So things like that's pretty cool.
How do you prepare for an interview?
Research. You have to watch the movie. That is mandatory. You're not allowed to legally interview, well, not legally, it's not a legal thing, but they'll kick you out if you haven't seen the movie before you're going to interview the talent. I like to check their Twitter feed, see what they're personally interested in and talking about and sharing. I obviously like to research them as a person. IMDb is hit and miss, guys. It can be great, and it can also blow up in your face with false information. Also, there's about a 20-page release that each movie has about the production, about the whole movie, and there's some goldmine great tidbits in there that I'll use as well. But I've been caught out with not having researched enough, and it's not worth it, so I don't do it anymore. As my favorite villain says, be prepared. Second favorite villain, Ursula's the best from The Little Mermaid. But Scar, he's onto something. Aside from all the regicide and kinslaying. Fuck, dude, he's badass. Next question. If you want to be an interviewer, the best thing to do would be in Hollywood. Red carpets are the best start for you. So finding an outlet, whether it's a smaller online outlet that does red carpets, that's probably the best foot in the door. A lot of the time, they're not going to pay, but it's that experience of being on the carpet, doing stand-up, so you're hosting and having that interview technique. If you do a few of those, you can gain momentum and go really far. Because a lot of the time, this is the secret, experienced host would rather do anything than a red carpet. So that's like your big stomping ground where you can get the most experience the quickest. Other than that, I think the only thing that YouTube does is show determination. So if you do 2 videos and bail, it's like, all right, cool, you tried. But if you are consistent with something, it shows that you are dedicated. And the biggest thing is that there are talkers and there are doers. You've got to be a doer, because I feel, and I've got a lot of experience with this because I hire people a lot for Geek Bomb, about 1 in 6 to 1 in 10 are actually doers. So be that person. Not YouTube, that's for sure. I'm like a ninja deleting all those comments about how I look and how much they hate me and how annoying I am. Obviously not ducking and weaving enough though. I think I almost can speak on behalf of a lot of people here, it's Instagram, right? Notoriously, Instagram is the most favored social media at the moment, which is great because it's like a snapshot of your life. But I have a problem with the fact that we're prioritizing looks over personality because no one's reading the captions as much. And I think that we really need to nurture having a skill set that isn't just how you look in a swimsuit. But Twitter's a cesspit of disgrace, so. And Facebook's just for your Auntie Sue. So it's funny, I feel like we've come a long way in this space where, I no longer have to prove myself as a nerd, which is what I had to do 10 years ago considerably. But I really do feel that as a woman on camera, I am looked at before I am heard. And that's super consistent. So every time I co host with a male, all the comments are talking about something that is said. But majority of my comments are how I'm wearing my hair, what my makeup looks like, what my expressions and face is doing, how I'm presenting, how I look, what I'm wearing. It's rarely based on my opinion and what I'm bringing to the table. And I think that that's really hard. I feel like women really do have to kind of jump over a few more hurdles than men have to do. And that really isn't anyone's fault. I just think it's an ingrained bias that we have. And I've actually noticed one time when I was listening to radio that I had it as well. And we really do have to unlearn this. I don't know how, but guaranteed the worst comment that a guy has ever had, it is nothing on what women get. A lot. We cop a lot of stuff. It's tough. It's thick skin, but it's at the same time, it's like, people go, this is what you signed up for. And I go, actually, I started hosting when forums were the only thing that existed. This was before Facebook. So, no, I actually didn't sign up for people being able to talk at me about me. They say to ignore the trolls. Do not feed the trolls. But every now and then I can see ignorance instead of cruelty. And ignorance is something that can be changed. And it's exhausting trying to change one person at a time. But I have this fundamental thing where I like to protect other people. So if I have to spend a little bit of time with someone to just shift their way of thinking so that they don't ask the next female online to show them their tits, that's a win for me. I think the thing is, there are different women online. There are people that have incredibly generous boundaries, and there are people like me who have very particular boundaries where I like to feel safe and I don't like to be objectified. And what men will do is, when there's access to all of these women, they'll apply the same blanket, what am I trying to say? They apply the same blanket approach. And what's appropriate for one person isn't necessarily appropriate for another. So I really do think that you have to respect the feedback that you're getting per person. And if someone says, I don't like that, you need to be, okay, cool, that's not something that I can do with her. And it's probably easier to just kind of take huge step backs and then peter in and build up the tolerance instead of like being aggressive and then needing to back off, if that makes sense. Fundamentally, the blanket response, don't engage. Don't give them the attention that they're so desperate for. They're saying things to aggravate so that you have a spotlight and you can actually engage. I've done that and I was like, hey, that's not cool. And they're like, oh my God, I never thought you would even notice me. And I'm like, it's not for good reasons though, right? So block or mute and just don't respond. If you have to respond, fucking bring it. Tell them what's up, I hate that trolls are inevitable, but we are going to come across trolls in one way or another. Just remember, if someone's spewing hatred, whether they're jealous or whether they're attacking you for whatever reason, it actually means that that's what they feel about themselves, or they really don't like who they are as a person, so they need to bring other people down. So for me, my best advice is just to lead with compassion. That's my mantra. You don't necessarily have to feel sorry for them, but just understand that they're obviously not good inside. Best movie of all time, The Princess Bride. I've got my top 5, but that's the best movie. What's the top 5? I'm so glad you asked. It's also The Fifth Element, the Star Wars movies. If I have to choose, my favorite is Return of the Jedi, but the best movie is Empire Strikes Back. Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Snatch. I think that's 5. A little bit of everything in there. Oh, and Willow. I'm such a nerd. This sucks to say it. Star Wars. I actually didn't mind The Last Jedi. I just don't like the trilogy that it's a part of because it's not a consecutive story. But I didn't like Solo. And I love Ron Howard. I think he's a great director. Something just didn't work in that movie. And I was at the world premiere and it was supposed to be bells and whistles and amazing. And 3/4 of the way through, I was like, I don't love this. And as a huge Star Wars fan, that kind of sucked because I think that's when the audience realized that it's more about money than it is about quality. Ouch. I was raised a nerd. I didn't have a choice. But then, of course, I chose to continue being a nerd. It was really hard to in high school. I went to a private all-girls school where being a nerd was not acceptable. But my dad's a big computer nerd, so he introduced me to computer games when I was about 5 or 6. And then my brothers are big nerds as well. My brother Jack loves racing car games. He is the king of Forza. And my other brother is big time into Dota and a lot of online MMOs and all that kind of side of it. I am the kind of girl who has now a PC again, all the consoles, and I play video games instead of going out to see friends. They get it. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is the best video game ever. It's the game that made me a gamer. I remember when I was 11 or 12 when I first played it. This is when we would rent video games because we were only allowed to play the Nintendo 64 on the school holidays. And I remember playing it, and this was so special to me because it was only one player, so my brothers had to leave me alone or watch, because we have regimented times for it. But I remember just thinking the look, the story, the music, everything about it, it was the perfect game. And I made it forever by getting the Triforce tattooed onto my finger because it represents, really, power, courage, and wisdom. Right now I just finished a game on the Nintendo Switch called Fire Emblem Three Houses. I spent 44 hours romancing Claude because I thought it would be really cool for it to be Morden Claude. He is the head of the Golden Deer house. It's kind of like Harry Potter but fantasy world. You get to choose what house you become the professor of. And I get it, being a professor and going for a student isn't great, but we had absolute chemistry and this guy was perfect. And I gave him the forever ring and he was like, yes, I love you, but I have to go now. And he left me 44 hours and Claude left. What do I do now? Guess I have to play God of War or Witcher 3 again. Favorite video game platform? Currently, I play Xbox the most. Favorite video game console of all time? The Nintendo 64. Oh my goodness. I don't like the PlayStation 4 interface. When you go enter, you should go into the box. It goes out. It's weird. I am currently reading book 1 of a 15-book series called The Wheel of Time. The first book is called Eye of the World. Amazon actually just bought the rights to this and they're making a television series out of it. So I wanted to try and read as much as possible before the show comes out so I can, get my own sort of frame of mind around it, I guess. I have a very vivid imagination. This book, though, has been on my to-read list for a decade. So I'm glad I'm doing it now. That's a big question. I think everyone has social media and all they want are followers. Put your clothes on. Ha, that's a big one for me. Please stop getting naked. You're so much more than that. Use captions to be funny and entertaining. Use hashtags along the line of what kind of photo that is so that people in the explore function can actually organically find your photo and hopefully like what you do. Have a personality. Go between videos or in carousel pictures. There's a bunch of tips out there, but the worst thing to do is to not be you. And if only 50 people follow you for you being you, then that's 50 amazing, awesome people. Geek Bomb is a geek media company where I have a YouTube channel and social media, and myself, along with 7 other contributors, make content in everything that falls under playing, watching, and reading, which is the majority of the geek world. Initially it was started because in Australia I was told that I wasn't allowed to talk about Star Wars, so I made it as almost like a pseudonym blog where I got to have my geeky outlet and chat. And since then it has evolved considerably. I have a team of all women, and I really do want to provide a safe space for women to feel like they can just geek out. So naturally 75% of my audience are men. But I have a really great community, and it is awesome, and they're great people, and we just geek out together. It's awesome. I love it. Oh my God. Running your own business is really, really hard. I think all you want is the fun stuff, and running a business is the not so fun stuff, and you can't put it off. It's probably the most important part of running the company. For me, hiring and firing people is probably the worst part. Hiring amazing people who stay with me for ages, great. Hiring someone who immediately lets me down, completely oversold themselves, just don't feel like it, they don't feel like working, that's really, really hard to do, because I don't want to be someone's mother and discipline them and tell them that they're wrong. I really do want to explore creativity. But at the same time, like, a company needs money, and I have to raise funds, and that's really hard as well. We are fan funded, and for me there is this obligation that if someone's donating towards the company, then they really do need to get great quality stuff back. So it's that as well. It's that kind of like crack of the whip constantly. But from that, I've been able to make some really great unique content and video series which cost a little bit of money that I wouldn't have been able to do without Patreon, and it's been super hilarious. I've loved the stuff we've done. Actually, this is a great question, because there are a lot of online sites that do need contributors. Having a body of work is always really important. So if you're a writer, have a folio of all your written work. If you love doing videos and you want to be a host, have a little show reel that you've compiled as well. If you haven't done any work, start writing, start hosting, do reviews, do literally what I'm doing right now, talk at a camera, just showcase what your skill sets are. But learn how to edit, learn how to record, learn how to write, learn how to all of it. Use Photoshop. Everything that an everyday person can do in a majority of jobs, that is something that you need to learn. And something that I refuse to hear is, I don't know how to do it, because with the amount of YouTube tutorials out there, you can do it, you just won't. So do it. Is this resonating? Yep.
And you had it right the first time, though, with what I was asking. How can I contribute to Geek Bomb?
If you want to contribute to Geek Bomb, the email address is info@geekbomb.net. Show me your stuff. Show me who you are. Show me why you're passionate about geeky things. What are you an expert in? How would you like to contribute? Are you good at editing? Are you good at social media? Are you good at hosting? Are you a content contributor? That's what I want to know. So yeah, shoot me an email. If you want to be a part of Patreon, head on to patreon.com/geekbomb. We have a number of different tiers from $2 a month up to $80 a month. And every single perk that we have in there is tailored for that tier. We do a lot of hangouts in Discord where we get to chat about books and about shows. We do trivia. There's merchandise like Punderwear t-shirts that you can get. I write letters and send mail. There's a bunch of awesome things. Just checking you weren't following me. Kidding. If you want to follow me at Maud Garrett on all social media, youtube.com/geekbomb, and at geekbomb for all that kind of stuff as well. And I'm on majority of things. There's not many Maud Garretts. Shout out to the only other Maud Garrett on social media. Sorry.
I want to try that one more time, just because the plane.
Yeah.
But that was great.
Oh, you want to follow me? I'm at Maud Garrett on most social media, actually. I'm on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube. I'm youtube.com/geekbomb and at geekbomb for all that good stuff on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. If you want to donate, patreon.com/geekbomb. My goodness, there's a lot of different social media out there, but I'm the only at Maud Garrett. So there is one other Maud Garrett. I stole the handle. I feel bad. Hi, Maud. I honestly don't even know what drew me to nerd culture. It's just in my blood. I mean, being raised a nerd was a big part of it. It's just the stuff that I'm really, really interested in. And I think us nerds know that it's so infectious to be able to connect with someone about the things that we love so much. And also the things that we weren't necessarily able to share or didn't have as many people out there that loved the things that we loved. And so online has really, really helped nerd out with people. That is awesome, and that's what I really, really love. Sorry, sport. I'd much rather be a nerd. The nerdiest thing about me, I don't know if it's like the 19 decimals past pi that I can recite. There's a bunch. I played a lot of video games. I am still playing the very first game that my dad taught me to play on the computer. I found an emulator and I play NetHack still to this day, and I still think it's one of the greatest games. How's that? Or my geeky tattoo. That'll do it too. I am in my nerd cave. Was I bullied growing up? Man, everyone's bullied. Anyone who says they weren't bullied, they were the bully and they didn't understand it, and they were still probably picked on about something. It doesn't matter what you look like, how you are as a person, how sweet you are, someone will find something that they can get at you about. So yeah, I had my fair share of things, and I think I was in the middle. I think because I was copying it from some people, I kind of pushed it onto others as well. Being a kid sucks. Yeah, I don't know many adult bullies. They're just people that, I don't know, are just despicable. Maybe they never grew up. But honestly, anything before adult life, there are so many shitheads. So just kind of my advice is to just keep trudging through until you leave school. And that's when life starts. Apparently there is a new Zelda game coming to the Switch on Nintendo, which I'm very interested in. I'm also really keen to see Star Wars Episode 9. I want to know how J.J. Abrams is going to round out the trilogy, because there's a lot of things that happened in 7 that didn't get acknowledged in 8, so I just want to know what that's going to be like. Yeah, I think they're the main big things for this year for me.
What is
My theory for episode 9 is that I have a problem with Kylo Ren as a villain, and I hoped that Snoke would kind of be the better villain. What I want is for Kylo Ren to have the Knights of Ren, which is supposed to be his sort of like, honestly, his like jock mates. They're like as well, but they have lightsabers. But they're, or his bounty hunters, just some sort of clique that he has, because I think him by himself, not so formidable. Him in a group, and they all, like, I mean, that's what, not to get political, but that's kind of like what Nazis are like, aren't they? You had, yeah, one person they can influence, but it takes a whole team to kind of really pack the punches. I actually read a bit of a script for episode 8 that never came into fruition, and it was addressing the Knights of Ren, so I've not been able to let that go. I think that would be cool. Is Rey a Skywalker? Probably. Her and Kylo gonna get together? Probably. We're gonna see Luke Skywalker again? Probably. As a Force ghost? Give me Obi-Wan. Actually, that's my new answer. I want the Obi-Wan, not Netflix, Disney Plus series. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, superhero? I'm not entirely sure. Who's going to play me in a movie? Laura Dern. That's all. Superhero I admire. I do like Wonder Woman. Life would be great if we all had a lasso of truth. Um, I also like Rogue, but wait. I also like Rogue, but X-Men, the animated series Rogue, not the Rogue that we had in the movies. Sorry, Suki. Yeah, I am a superhero already. I don't know if you can see that. There I am. Oh, that's Wonder Maud. Oh yeah, that's all. That was important. Now we've gotten through that. Good. Okay, thank you for watching. Thank you for letting me into your life for this little glimpse. I appreciate it. It meant a lot. No, thank you. Bye. Is it something that you want to ask me? I'm ready.